Hello and welcome to the Valley. Today I am your host, Janet Michael. We are back on the Zooms for Red Cross Day. We are trying to make everyone be Red Cross ready, and whether that is being prepared for a disaster or being someone who goes and deploys and helps people who are currently suffering from disasters. That's what we've been covering all year long. Deb Fleming is joining me on the Zooms. She is executive director for Deep Breath, the Greater Shenandoah Valley Chapter of the American Red Cross. And I'm so grateful that Deb meets me on the Zooms every single month. Though, Deb, at some point when you are in the Winchester office, we should probably record this in person. We should do that at least once this year.
I will take you up on that. That's going to be nerve-wracking, but hey, why not?
It's really not. You'll forget the mic is even clipped onto your shirt. And then sometimes it's even more difficult for me to edit because people literally forget that we're actually recording a radio show. So joining Deb today is Elizabeth Quinn. Elizabeth is the Disaster Health Services lead. So last month we got to meet Jill Johnson, and she is a volunteer that has been deployed several times. She told us about that experience and why she does it. You have a little bit of a different take, Elizabeth, on what you do for the Red Cross because you're a nurse and you help from the health perspective, but you deploy just like any of the other volunteers would. Is that right?
That is right. I do go out as a nurse and as sheltering. We can do both. Whenever you sign up as a volunteer with the Red Cross, there are so many opportunities, and you don't have to limit yourself to one.
We have talked in the past about how anyone can be a volunteer for the Red Cross, that you don't necessarily have to have a certain set of skills. But in your case, you're actually looking for nurses, whether they're actively working somewhere or if they have retired, you need actual skilled nurses to help you through the Red Cross.
We do need nurses. Actually, it's any licensed professional. It can be an RN or an LPN, and it can be a physician. EMTs are welcome locally within the state that they are licensed, but any licensed professional that still has a current license is welcome. We run on a community case model that is RN registered nurse led. So even a physician will be under the supervision of a registered nurse for this particular purpose.
That sounds like a perk in and of itself for the RN to
Absolutely.
be the boss.
Yeah. It's the only time in my life I'm going to be able to tell the doctor what to do. Yes.
Why the need for nurses in particular? What kinds of things do they do?
We operate both during everyday emergencies, such as home fires or apartment fires where people are displaced, or we can go nationally to other sorts of hurricanes and that sort of thing. Actually, I'm on standby right now to go to Guam for that Category 5 typhoon. But what we do is contact families who've experienced a disaster, such as a home fire. And usually we're the first contact after the disaster assessment. People have gone out and talked to them and provided them with some money just to get them a hotel room and maybe something to eat and maybe some clothing. But we contact them within the first 24 hours after that home fire to see if we can help them replace anything that's health related. And that can be anything from medications and glasses to CPAPs and BiPAPs, any sort of durable medical equipment that they utilize in the home, dentures, hearing aids, that sort of thing, just to try and give them A, hope. B, they're still so scattered about what's been lost, what's going on, what do I do next? We're the first people that can intervene and get them back on a trajectory back to, okay, I can get through this, I can do this. My health is taken care of now, so let's move on to other things. And then within 72 hours, someone from recovery calls them and helps them with things like lodging and food and clothing and getting them established within their home community. And that's why the community response, the community preparedness is so vital.
You make a really good point because I would imagine during something as traumatic as a house fire, if you were the victim of that, you're not immediately thinking about, oh my gosh, my pills are inside or I need insulin because I have diabetes. You're not thinking about any of that. I would guess that most people are thinking about the valuables and the memories that they have just lost. And it's not until later that they're suddenly realizing, oh, wait, I can't read this document because my glasses were on my nightside table. It really is important for someone who has that experience to come in and help those people through that stage.
Absolutely. And most people that at least I've been in contact with, they're just concerned about getting out. It's them and their pets usually. The memories are probably gone.
So you mentioned deployments. How many have you been on?
It looks like somewhere around 20. I have been pretty much coast to coast in the continental United States. But as I said, I'm getting ready to head to Guam via Hawaii.
Have you done a lot of international deployments? That was one of the things that Jill had not yet done when we talked to her last month. So I'm really curious if they're any different than the ones that you do here in the US.
I have not been on one, to be truthful. My guess is it just depends on the standing infrastructure, how damaged it has been, and whether there is a way to get things there. I believe what we are waiting for in Guam is to find out whether there's a runway that's still accessible.
That would be somewhat important, I would
Yeah.
think.
Yeah.
And then for the deployments that you've done outside of the communities that we have here, for example, in the Shenandoah Valley, what do they look like? What's it like when you do a deployment in Florida or California or somewhere else?
They are different. They are unto themselves. If you've been on one deployment, you've been on one deployment. Each of them has its own flavor and its own challenges. We ramp up to something that's called a battle rhythm once everybody is in place, but we go into whatever sheltering is available there and work with each individual client and family to see what their needs are, to listen to their story. It's emotional support as well as physical and health support. It's the entire human being. You really have to give of yourself. This is a service job in many more ways than working in a hospital or a home health situation ever was. You are definitely there for them and just trying to meet their needs, whether it is someone to listen to, someone to hold their hand, someone who needs a hug, someone who just needs a what do I do first? This is probably the actual embodiment of what I ever conceived nursing to be.
Nurses are so uniquely qualified for that type of service that it does make a lot of sense that you would be doing this.
Yes, I absolutely love it. You go to meet survivors, you give them hope and just direction, but you also get to directly input and help to care for them. Sometimes in a hospital setting, you do a piece of it and then they go to another floor or another unit or something and you don't see them again. You can see the whole trajectory of the beginning of their recovery in this. When you see them leave a shelter and go back to their home or go to a new place of living, you've been a part of that recovery and there's nothing else like it.
My mother-in-law is a registered nurse. She retired several years ago from Valley Health and she worked in the NICU unit there at Valley Health.
Mhm.
So I could imagine she had very similar experiences where she's dealing with these teeny tiny little babies, but she never gets to see them graduate high school or do any of the other things that full circle moment isn't there for a lot of nurses, but you get to see that when you're in another community helping someone through a trauma like this.
Absolutely, absolutely. And that is what makes it worthwhile. When you get the little drawings from the children, they just make it all worth it because they're just so honest and so open and responsive to whatever they're feeling. And they just come and give you hugs and they hug your leg or they give you a picture they've drawn. I've got thank cards. I've got all sorts of things up in my kitchen that just keep me mindful of why I'm doing this.
I could also see why nurses would be so valuable in a disaster like that because every nurse that I've known, my mother-in-law June in particular, she is the calmest, most not freaked out person I think I have ever met in my entire life. It's a little scary actually when you see it when you're somebody like me who freaks out over every little thing. It's a little unnerving, but it makes sense for disaster recovery.
Yes, it does. I think what I try to tell the nurses that I work with when I do deploy is take a deep breath. The emergency is over. They have shelter, they have food. We are going in to help. It's no longer an emergency situation. This is controlled. So control yourself and you'll give the client a better experience.
Let's take a break. When we come back, can you share maybe some stories with me about some of your deployments and what you've learned and talk a little bit more about why you do it and what people should expect if they volunteer?
Sure.
We're going to do all of that when we come back. We are on the Zooms today with Deb Fleming. She is Executive Director for the Greater Shenandoah Valley Chapter of the American Red Cross. Elizabeth Quinn is joining us. She is the Disaster Health Services Lead. We're going to talk more about nursing and disaster recovery when we come back in just a couple of minutes.
This Tuesday, April Davis will change the world. She doesn't know that yet. All she knows is that she went to justserve.org and volunteered an hour of her time. Browsing through dozens of service opportunities in her community, April decided to spend her Tuesday evening serving dinner to mothers and their children at a transitional house. She doesn't know she'll be serving a particular mother and daughter who will be spending their first night in this home. April doesn't know that the hot meal she'll serve is the first this mother and daughter will have had in a week, or that the simple smile she'll offer as she serves them will help them realize that things are going to be all right. Which is why this Tuesday, April Davis will change the world. See the difference you can make. Sign up for service opportunities in your community. Visit justserve.org.
Welcome back to the Valley today. I am your host, Janet Michael. We are on the Zooms today with Deb Fleming. She is Executive Director for the Greater Shenandoah Valley Chapter of the American Red Cross. This is part of our ongoing series where we talk with Deb every month about disaster recovery. We talk about volunteer deployments. We talk about blood drives. We talk about flooding and being ready and all of the things, Deb. So I'm curious that as we sit here on a hot and humid Monday afternoon, what does it look like from the American Red Cross perspective? What else is going on in the country that you're actively working on and actively helping people with?
This weekend has been an incredible weekend. Unfortunately, there's been a lot going on from multifamily fires within our own chapter. We've also had in our region a train incident that spilled hydrochloric acid and had to evacuate a town. There's been flooding in Minnesota and Michigan. There's a typhoon that is hitting Saipan and Guam, which is a category 5. And then we had storms and flooding and power outages. So during that hot spell, going without power, having to set up shelters for individuals. And then our normal multifamily fires. And I hate to say that it's normal, but that's a pretty typical thing that we deal with. And then we have the FIFA World Cup series that's all over the United States that the Red Cross is supportive of as well. And then are also, because of people being on vacation, a shortage of blood. So we're getting pretty low on our blood support. So we are actively trying to recruit people to come and give blood. So it's been really active. The national headquarters and people around the country, Red Crossers, did not necessarily take the holiday off. They were working really hard. It's locally and nationally.
Elizabeth, I think sometimes when people are thinking about being deployed or being a volunteer, they are thinking first locally, which is great because that is certainly needed. But you were telling me during the break that there is the ability to deploy, but to do it virtually. So you can have one foot here in your house, but also have another foot in Minnesota helping someone there.
Absolutely. We do have virtual deployments. It's the same requirements, licensed professional nurse or physician with a multi-state license, and you take on a virtual position. So you work on the same hours that would be going on if you were in person. So if it's on the West Coast, you're going to be 3 hours later, but you're helping people from a distance. You're just helping them virtually. You call them up, see what their needs are, try and replace what you can by sending funds for them to purchase glasses or dentures or whatever they have lost, their medications, that sort of thing. So you can still help from a distance from your home and your computer and your phone.
I would think that you would have an overabundance of those types of volunteers, but you were also saying that that's what you need the most right now.
That is what we need, because we need people on the ground to take care of those sorts of home fires and those responses, while some of us do go out and go across the country to be in person. So we need to staff both.
Is the process to sign up for something like this difficult? We were talking to Jill last month, and she was talking about how easy and simple it was for her to just be a non nurse volunteer. What is it like if someone is a nurse and they want to get involved?
1-800 Red Cross, or talk to your local chapter about it. Look up your local number, volunteer. You'll be interviewed as to what your interests might be. And like I said, it doesn't have to be limited to nursing. If you are interested in being a nurse, your application will get sent to me, and I will call you up and say, hey, what is it you do and what is it you would like to do? And we go from there. There is training that is involved. It used to be 20 hours. It's down to 8.5. So that is a lot better. And that's all video training, just to get you introduced to the Red Cross way of doing things. As I said, it is a community model, so it's very different. You also have to go through the training so that the Red Cross indemnifies you, because you are a licensed professional. Then you would take an hour-and-a-half class that is interactive, online, live. Then all of the people come to me for computer training on our 2 different platforms that we use for servicing clients and documenting health information so that it is safe. And then you come onto the schedule. You're always backed with a seasoned nurse until you say that you are comfortable. I have a high level of expectation of all of my nurses, so they all function very independently, but there is always someone behind you that you can call 24/7 to get answers. No one is ever left alone or hung out on a tree or on a limb. And I do not eat my young. Nurses have a history of expecting people to know things. We all started at the same place. We all started not knowing a darn thing, and I remember that. So no fear. I will not yell at anybody. It's new to everybody. How else can you learn? You have to start at the beginning and go through it in a progressive manner. And I'm here to put myself out of a job. So that's good.
Is it similar in that I can also say, look, I am only available on these days or during this time? This isn't a 24/7 on call situation that you have no control over.
No, we do have a calendar that people sign up for. The way we do sign up is actually 24 hours, but you don't work those 24 hours. You are responsible for any clients that would come in during that 24-hour segment. But we don't call people 24 hours a day. The first contact is usually text or email, and that's on the day that they actually come into the system. Some people don't even answer their phones or look at any of that for a couple of days. And then we try 3 different times to get in touch with people, phone, text, and email over a series of days or even a week or so. If we don't get them in that time frame, we do close out their case, but that is a simple matter to reopen once they do get that information or see that contact attempt. We are there.
Let's go back to a second to something we were talking about in the first segment, which is medications in particular, because it can be extremely complicated to get medications on a whim if you don't have access to them. It's not like you can just go back to your pharmacy and say, oh, my house caught on fire and I don't have my pills. Can you just give me another refill? It doesn't always work like that.
It doesn't always work like that. Some pharmacies and some medications, depending on who and what it is, will require a fire report that can be obtained, obviously, from the fire department that attended your home fire. Sometimes we have to request disaster overrides. Sometimes insurance companies want different things, but we are there to help people navigate through that.
So, out of your 20 plus deployments, are there one or two that stand out to you?
Yeah, actually, there was one in Mississippi earlier this year. We were working in shelters, and one of my nurses got very close to a gentleman and found out that he didn't know how to work his cell phone and he couldn't read. And most people don't really want to tell you that they can't read or they can't do this or that. She literally stayed 2 hours after her shift to get through getting this gentleman rehooked up with all of his due benefits. These were benefits that this man was due to receive, but he couldn't read the emails that were sent to him. So she spent the time with him, got him over $6,000 in back benefits, and that is life changing. That is absolutely transformative for people to get hooked back up with the benefits that they deserve, that they've worked for, that they have earned. That was a very proud moment.
It really speaks to not just the services that you can provide from a technical perspective because you're a nurse, but to the human side, the compassion and the need and the want to actually help somebody and affect change on their lives. That's what the underlying foundation is for anybody who wants to volunteer with Red Cross.
Absolutely. I do believe that. And I think that especially applies to anyone in health services. It's the whole reason for being in health services. You want to help. And this is a place where you can directly help someone. You can impact their life, truly.
So before we wrap up, I have one last question. If someone is listening today and something that you have said has sparked their interest, but they're still on the fence, they're not sure this is the right thing for them, or they're not sure they could do it, what advice do you have for them?
Call and talk to us. You won't know until you try it, and you will be surprised at what you as one individual can do. You can make an impact. You can make a difference. You owe it to yourself.
Deb, sometimes starting off on that local level is the easiest way to ease yourself into it. Signing up to be a volunteer and to respond to a house fire in your neighborhood, in your community, is a good way to get your feet wet and then move through the ranks, so to speak, into larger things.
Yes, and we've had a lot of volunteers sign up and they say, you know what, I have 5 hours a week. I'm retired and I just want to do this a little bit. I have 5 hours a week. And before you know it, you're like, are you sure you want to deploy again? You just came back. And pretty soon they're in a regional position and because they love it so much. So if you are thinking about it, it is such a great thing to do for yourself, especially the people that you help. When you think of a humanitarian, my first thought is Red Crossers. Elizabeth is a volunteer. She does this because she wants to. And because she wants to, she does it really well. I think when you're surrounded by people who are doing things because of their desire and because they care about other people, you're around really great people. And it's hard to not have that become very infectious and just see the world in a really different way. So again, like Elizabeth said, try it. You owe it to yourself and just kind of see what the world is like when you're surrounded by really great people.
And I can't get over the whole virtual thing. I think that is just outright genius because that's an even easier way to get your feet wet without actually having to leave your house. So I can't believe, I hope after this conversation, Elizabeth, you were inundated with nurses and people calling saying, oh my gosh, I want to sign up. I didn't know I could do it that way.
That's a problem I want to have. It's also a good way for people who do currently work to still make a difference. There's only one other nurse on my team who is retired, as I am. Everybody else works full time.
Elizabeth, thank you for taking the time to educate me on this today. I do appreciate it.
Absolutely my pleasure. Thank you, Janet.
And Janet, just to know that if it takes her a few weeks to respond to somebody that does sign up, it's because she's in Guam.
I was going to say safe travels and Godspeed, my friend, because that is quite a trip.
Thank you so much.
And Deb, once again, I think you are busting all sorts of myths about what it's like to be a volunteer for the Red Cross. So I'm really glad that you've chosen to bring some of your volunteers on board to have these conversations. I think it's really important for people to hear.
I'm trying to talk to one of my volunteers that does all of our maintenance for us throughout the entire region and other regions too. He travels and sleeps throughout. I asked him one day, do you even have a home? He looked at me. I seriously wondered if he had a home because he's never at home. but he could use some help. So if I can convince Dave to come on next month, we'll have Dave, and it will show a totally different side. He doesn't deploy, but he maintains our buildings and everything that is important for Elizabeth to be able to go out.
Exactly. Without which you wouldn't be able to do the other things. So you need some of that support on the backside, and people don't often think about that either. So I hope you can convince him.
Yes, I'm working. Dave, if you hear this.
There you go.
I will be back tomorrow with a brand new episode of The Valley Today, just a few minutes after noon. So meet me here then.